So many of my students tell me that the only reason they can't speak English is because they don't have anyone to practice with, or they would certainly speak better if they lived in an English-speaking country. Certainly, having someone to practice with, especially a native speaker, can greatly help you improve your English. But that doesn't mean you'll automatically be able to speak it. So here are 6 practical tips you can use to practice speaking English outside of an English-speaking country. My first tip is talk about what you're doing in real time. If you're someone that really wants to practice speaking English more and really want to develop their English speaking skills but don't have someone to practice with, then this method is for you. While it might feel strange,
Stop talking to yourself.
particularly at the beginning, talking to yourself is really one of the best ways to practice speaking the language you're learning when you don't have someone to practice with or live in an environment where no one speaks English. So what you can do is to talk to yourself about what you're doing. You can talk to yourself about what's happening in your day, or your thoughts on a situation, or a movie that you saw, or a book you want to read. Really, there is so much you can talk about when speaking by yourself. And the best thing about this is that you don't have the pressure of someone else waiting for you to speak, or the fear of judgment if you make a mistake. But the best thing about narrating what you're doing in real time is that if you don't have any inspiration to talk about anything, by narrating what you're doing in that moment, you'll always have something to talk about and won't have the excuse of, oh, but I don't know what to say, or I don't know what to talk about. So what I want you to do is to narrate and really try and describe in detail your actions. So for example, if you're cooking, now I'm chopping vegetables. I'm cutting peppers, tomatoes, lettuce, radish. Next, I'll pour olive oil and heat the pan. This is really great because you'll be practicing and giving yourself the experience of speaking a language that's not your native language. Also, identifying parts of your vocabulary that are missing and that you need to work on, while also practicing important tenses, so the present continuous, by saying I am verb ing. For instance, I am reading a book, or I'm typing an email. If your language doesn't have tenses, then this is a really great way and far more effective and productive way of practicing tenses than relying on a boring, stale grammar exercise textbook, as you're giving your brain not only the context, but also the experience of using those important tenses in a real life situation, not something that's theoretical and only exists on a piece of paper or in your head. Another thing you can do to make even more use of this time is to ask yourself questions and really try and create a dialogue with yourself. So if you're chopping vegetables, why are you chopping vegetables? Are you hungry? Are you preparing dinner? And if you answer, oh, I'm chopping vegetables because I'm hungry, then you can ask yourself another question like, do you eat lunch at this time? And with just a couple questions, you're already having a mock conversation with yourself, which will give you the experience you need to feel more confident when you have a conversation with a real person. But before I move on to the next tip, please remember, focus on fluency, not perfection. This is a problem that so many of my students have made, is that of worrying about mistakes and whether they're using the correct tense or the correct words. You shouldn't worry about mistakes. Mistakes are the way we learn and identify which parts of our language need improvement. The goal of this exercise is to build the muscles in your mouth for speaking English and to practice your fluency and build your confidence in speaking English. Of course, your dialogue isn't going to be perfect, and if you notice any errors, then correct yourself. But the most important thing here is to keep going and keep speaking. And by doing so, you'll really develop your speaking fluency so much faster than worrying and stopping every 2 or 3 words. Try and work out whether what you've just said is perfect. My next tip is walk and talk. If you're someone that loves to walk in a park, for example, or you have to walk to work, walk to school, walk your dog, then really try and take advantage of that time to improve your English speaking skills. So often I hear many of my students complaining that they don't have someone to practice with, and if they did, then somehow, magically, they'll be able to speak English. And while having someone to practice with does help a lot, it's not the magic formula that will allow you to suddenly speak really good English. What you need to do is practice speaking beforehand, so you avoid something I like to call the translation trap, which is when, instead of spending and really taking advantage of the limited time practice speaking English, you're instead constantly having to go back and rely on a translator or have your speech broken up by as you're struggling to remember words that you know but just can't say and keep escaping you. What causes that is you haven't had the practice and experience of speaking English before. So, in order to build that experience, you need to speak to yourself. And walking and talking in English is one of the best ways to do that. What you need to do is, when you're walking around, try and describe your surroundings in English. Really try in detail describe any people you see, any cars that drive by, pets or buildings in as much detail as possible. If there are words that you don't know, you can use Google Translate or another translator on your phone to find and speak those words aloud. Really remember to describe your surroundings. So as you walk, really try and describe the things around you that you can see in as much detail as possible, while also using new adjectives or adjectives that you often forget when you're speaking English. Really try and express what you see, what you hear, and what you feel in that moment. For example, if you're in a park and it's a great day, you can say, the sky is clear, the sun is out, the birds are chirping, and the weather is wonderful. In sentences like that, you can fit in 3, 4, 5, or 6 adjectives. And by hearing them and giving your brain context, it will be so much easier in the future for you to easily recall those words and use them correctly in a conversation. Another thing you can do while following this tip is to talk about your day. Talk about what you're doing in that moment, or what are your plans for that day. This will help you practice the future, present, and past tense in English, giving you valuable grammar practice and speaking practice at the same time. So, if you're cutting a salad, you can list off the ingredients. So, you're chopping peppers, tomatoes, olives, radish. By forming these different words into a sentence, you really are building the vocabulary, the sentence structure, and the experience that you need in order to avoid the translation trap and really enhance and rapidly improve your speaking skills in English. My next tip is to sing in English. This might seem strange and even weird.
It was so weird
To think that singing can actually improve your language skills, but actually singing is one of the best ways to really help train the muscles in your mouth for pronouncing words in a different language. And it actually has helped me with my experience learning German. For a long time, I found it really tough to be able to correctly pronounce German words, and it would take me several tries before I finally got it right. However, while singing along to my favorite German songs, slowly but surely, it became significantly easier to correctly enunciate German words, and when my German speaking friends would correct me, I would be able to get it and say it perfectly, maybe once or twice, when before it would take 5 or 6 attempts to do so. So what I recommend you do is to first choose songs with clear lyrics. Try to avoid songs that are extremely fast-paced or complex songs at first. What we want to do at the beginning is to really train your mouth to sing in English, but you can only do that by starting out with songs that have very understandable lyrics. Once you've found some songs that you enjoy and are clear and understandable, find the lyrics to the songs online, translate any words you don't know, and then just sing along, remembering to pay close attention to your pronunciation and intonation. Don't just do it once or twice a day. Try to do it several times a day at least to speed up how quickly the muscles in your mouth will build for speaking English. While singing, really try and mimic the singer's pronunciation and try to reproduce the sounds as close as natively possible. A thing I like to do is to imagine that I'm singing the song and the original artist. Really try and picture yourself being a famous artist singing to a crowd of people and being a native speaker. This positive reinforcement will really help avoid burnout or loss of motivation, particularly during those days where you don't feel like you're making progress. A great benefit to doing this is that you're practicing and building your English vocabulary. Really focus on learning words in the lyrics that you don't know, and then use the time that you spend singing as repetition in order to help remember the words and their meanings. And finally, once you've mastered these songs, create a playlist of songs that you both enjoy and sing along to, and keep adding to it. So during days that you have to clean the house or go for a bike ride, you can listen to the playlist and practice your English in a very enjoyable way. Now, if you're someone who wants to accelerate the English progress faster and wants my personalized help in achieving your goals in learning English, then consider applying for my advanced English coaching program that is designed to help you go from super frustrated and stuck to super confident and fluent in English so you can take advantage of all the opportunities that English provides. The philosophy of the program is all about teaching you the most effective possible way to learn a language and give you my guidance and accountability towards achieving your goal. So if that's something you are interested in, please click the link in the description or first pinned comment to get a free consultation call to see how I can help you. Now with that out of the way, let's get back to the video. My next tip is to immerse yourself in English. Well, of course, every one of us would love to live in a country where the language we're learning is spoken and really get the feel of what it's like to be constantly surrounded by our target language. However, unfortunately though, for many of us that isn't possible, so we'll have to do the next best thing, and that is to bring an English speaking environment into our homes. The best thing about the internet age is that anyone, anywhere can find native content designed for native speakers. That will work well in your favor in creating this immersive English environment, as there's an infinite amount of content on the internet. So, some things you can do to create this immersive environment in English is to first listen to music in English rather than your native language. By listening to music, you'll really be sinking in English words and phrases that are often repeated over and over and over again in your favorite songs. Another thing that you can do similar to music is podcasts. Podcasts really are the hidden friend of language learners, as you can listen to a podcast doing anything and anywhere that doesn't require you to focus a lot. You could be on the bus, walking down the street, anything like that. You can put in your earphones and turn on your favorite podcast and really feel as though you're in an English environment. By doing just these two things, you're already exposing yourself to a wide variety of accents, conversational styles, vocabulary, and more informal words. If you love TV shows and films, another thing you can do is to stop watching those things in your native language or with dubs in your native language and start watching your favorite movies and TV shows in English instead. The great thing about Hollywood and many of the major movie franchises, and what is a great advantage for you, is that very often they are English speaking. So you'll have literally hours upon hours upon hours of rewatching your favorite stories and characters in English. And while it might not feel like studying, by increasing the number of hours you spend immersed in English, you'll quickly notice how much easier and how much faster your listening comprehension will improve just by sitting on your couch or on your bed watching your favorite films over again. For those of you who like reading, another thing you can do is to read books, magazines, social media, the news in English instead of your native language. Start by finding material that's at your level. That is, material that you can read and understand maybe 80-90% of it, and look up any words you don't know. You can also find a lot of extensions that allow you to translate any words you don't know, so you don't need to change the tab to find the translation or definition of those words instead. By reading social media or the news in English instead of your native language, you'll be really increasing the amount of time you're spending immersing yourself in English without realizing it. How many of us have spent only 5 minutes scrolling and reading Instagram posts or stuff on Facebook in our native languages? Now think of how much additional time you would be spending immersing yourself in English if instead of doing that in your native language, do it in English instead. Another tip is to play online games or video games in English. If you enjoy gaming, then switch your favorite games from your native language into English. Not only does this combine entertainment with learning, but also you'll really get the immersive experience of what it's like being in an English-speaking country. Changing the language to English is especially powerful with games that tell stories or allow you to interact with the world. By either watching or creating your own stories, important vocabulary will really sink into your mind as your brain will have context and a strong memory associated to those words, which will allow it to pull those words in future conversations. My next tip is to join and be a part of an online English-speaking community. If you live in a country where English isn't that widely spoken or spoken very poorly, and you want to practice and develop your skills, then joining a community that speaks English online could be a great way for you not only to be immersed, but also to have continual motivation for improving your English. One place that's always open to English learners are forums and websites designed to bring together language exchange partners. This could be apps like HelloTalk, italki, which are all about bringing together different language learners and could be a way for you to find someone to practice with, not only via text, but also through voice calls or video calls, which you can arrange at times convenient for the pair of you. Social media is also a great tool you can use to find places where you can practice writing in English and have other people to join you. On Facebook, there are dozens of dedicated groups that are all about bringing together English language learners and giving them tips, tricks, teaching them new words, or just to be a very supportive place where you can practice your writing skills and be corrected by people who have gone through a similar experience in their own English journey as well. In many of these Facebook groups, you'll be able to access WhatsApp chats that arrange voice calls, or you can find friends to practice speaking English to instead. The best thing about joining a group that is designed to help language learners is that they provide a supportive space for language practice. You'll also be able to find or receive great resources for your own language journey and feel supported by other people who have gone through or have a similar level and are going through the same frustrating journey that language learning can be. Remember to also take advantage of comment sections. These can be on Facebook videos, on a post, or anything like that, where you can write a response to something you've seen or join an ongoing conversation in the comment section. This can be a great way to get casual practice writing in English and engaging in the language, which will help you identify parts of your vocabulary that are missing and then build it, as those new words you find will have the memory of those conversations attached to them, making it far more easier for your brain to recall them and use them in a future conversation in English. Keep a journal in English, but with a difference. Having a journal to write in every day is a really powerful way to improve your English and really understand which parts of your vocabulary, sentence structure, grammar are missing and that you need to work on in the future. Keeping a journal also allows you to identify which grammatical points you need to work on or don't understand fully, as while you're writing, you might not know how to say something correctly in English. Another important benefit to keeping a journal is that it allows you to identify parts of your vocabulary that you're missing and need to work on. So, while you're writing something about your day, for example, and there are words you don't know, what I would recommend you do is to either write the words you don't know in your native language and then find the translation in English later on if you are someone who's short on time, or you can use a translator to find that translation. But the most important part here is that once you've found this word, you need to write it down either on a piece of paper, add it to your flashcard deck, or even a document on your computer, and include a definition and an example sentence. Then, whenever you have time, review those words that you are missing and refresh it in your memory. Another thing you can do is to take advantage of your journal and try and include and reuse these new words as often as possible. So it really moves from your passive vocabulary into your active vocabulary. So depending on your level, if you're a low A1, A2 level, I'd recommend keeping your journal online, so on a document, as there'll be a lot more words you don't know. But if you have a higher level, I would buy either a journal or diary or even a notebook. And then when you have time, write about your day, your thoughts, or a topic you find interesting. If you're someone who gets tired due to work, family, or other responsibilities and don't have loads and loads of time for writing in a journal, I would personally buy a week planner or a homework or study planner where you've got all 7 days across 2 pages. In each of these days, try and write 3 or 4 sentences about your day, trying to incorporate any words that you're trying to learn and want to add into your active vocabulary. This way, not only are you learning what those words mean, but also how to use them in a conversational context and really making sure that they're integrated and stuck in your brain, so you won't reach a point where you know the word, you know how to say it, but it just escapes your memory. I would strongly recommend doing this in the evening so that your brain will be able to process those words and really help it move those words into your long-term memory. And then in the morning, you can read what you wrote the night before and maybe correct any mistakes you've noticed or expand upon the sentences. Doing this is a really amazing technique, not only because it builds your writing skills, but improves your vocabulary, your understanding of grammar, improves your reading skills. But here's the key for making this a really powerful method for improving your speaking skills as well. Try and read out loud what you've written in English in order to really practice your pronunciation and train your mouth to speak in English. Read the story you wrote over and over again until you can say it perfectly, and then move on to the next journal entry. This is a really powerful method because it will improve your pronunciation and listening skills, while also having the added benefit that by hearing these stories spoken in your own voice, it will help your brain remember those words faster, because we humans remember words better when we hear them spoken in our own voice instead of someone else's. Honestly, if you do this every day, it will help you so much and you'll feel far more confident speaking English. Which one of these tips are you going to use in your English journey? Which one is your favorite? Tell me in the comment section. And if you have a method that you like to do, share it with other learners. Also, if you want my personalized help in improving your English, then consider applying for my advanced English coaching program. If you're someone who wants more accountability and want the actual English confidence transformation that we provide, then we can have a chat to see how I can help you go from feeling limited and frustrated to super confident and fluent, so you can take advantage of career opportunities in English speaking scenarios coming your way. So if that's something you're interested in, click the link in the description and first pinned comment to book a free consultation call to see how I can help you achieve your goals. Now, if you want to sound more like a native speaker, watch this video here that talk all about it. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you've enjoyed it and want more lessons just like this, make sure to subscribe. And if you've enjoyed this video and want me to make more lessons, make sure you smash that like button so I know. And with that, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye!